I'm your host, Lawrence Francis, welcoming you to the Winery Fingerprint series. Featuring producer conversations across wine regions worldwide, recorded in November 2025. In each series episode, I work with producers to discover their unique winery fingerprint. This has three essential components. One, it's factual, based in truth and therefore defensible, the solid foundations to build from. Two, it has personality and captures who you actually are and how you operate. And three, it drives an emotional response. It makes people care enough to pay attention, remember the details, and tell their friends. Tune in to each episode to hear what this model uncovers for each guest. A model so powerful that for 50 producers in the same region, it will uncover a unique fingerprint for all 50. Each conversation is a sample of the full process of discovery, documentation, and refinement I work through with my clients on the Winery Fingerprint program. Today's conversation features Stephen Thompson of Analemma Wines in Mosier on the Oregon side of the Columbia Gorge. Hearing his origin story, we get a sense of both his deeper motivations and the twists and turns on the way. But as you'll hear, I believe to break through the noise more effectively, Analemma Wines need something much sharper. And listening back to this episode, I really love what we discovered together, and based on my own experience of visiting them, I think my proposed Analemma Wines Winery Fingerprint can be a powerful tool for more efficient customer outreach and engagement. Enjoy!
It did start in college when I graduated with a degree of cultural geography, and I appreciated studying the cultures of the world. And upon graduation, I wanted to go see the world I had learned about through the studies. And so I looked for a company that I could travel with and also engage in the outdoors and with people and through education. And that company is still in existence today. It's Backroads, active travel company, and they host active vacations all over the world. And through the several years of being there, I was a trip leader and bicycle tour guide throughout parts of Europe and Asia and Central and South America, and quite an array of different countries. And it was on these trips, primarily throughout France and Italy and Spain, that I became familiar with wine and really appreciated it. The trips would stay in nice hotels, and we would have dinners, and so I was exposed to some nice wines for the first time in my life, and I was really intrigued. And so I began to request to lead trips in those wine regions so I could be closer and learn more and continue to educate myself about it, because that's a strong part of the culture. And that's what I appreciated. It included the climate, the growing season, the varietals, the people's history. It just included a lot of what I loved. And I started picking up books and studying personally. And then things shifted for me with the 9/11 event in September 11th, 2001, where after that big event, international travel really quieted down, and a lot of my schedule as a tour leader evaporated. I was in Turkey at that time as a regional specialist, and so I needed to leave. The trips were canceled, and brought all of our equipment back to our headquarters in Italy, which was in Chianti, and that's late September, so harvest was going on around us, and I thought it would be wonderful to step in and learn harvest. And so I did that. I just kind of worked as a day laborer for a couple of different wineries there, and was very enthusiastic. I love the camaraderie, the physical part in the fields, and seeing the cellar for the first time. So when I came back to the U.S. the next year, I started looking around for how I can get into the industry. And that was when I was made aware that a 2-year enology and viticulture program was just beginning in the Walla Walla, Washington area. So I immediately went over there. I met with the future director. We had a brilliant engagement, conversation. I felt like this is just where I needed to be. And so I signed up right then and was the first cohort of students through the program that was just beginning. So that afforded me kind of a little bit more of a proper education in terms of just book study and credits, and then also it offered great exposure to the community. Since the building wasn't established, the students had to go out into the community and visit the wineries for their lab tasks and stuff. And so I got to meet a lot of the winemakers in the area. Walla Walla was growing very rapidly, and there was a lot of occupational opportunity, so I could pick and choose. My professor and mentor, Stan Clark, really encouraged me to go to the vineyard, and that first, and that really made sense to me. Although I didn't have an agricultural background, I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into, but I took the challenge a little bit and stepped right in and found myself in a vineyard management position because of my fluency in Spanish, and so I could coordinate teams and work in the vineyard. And just the main challenge was a conventionally farmed agricultural operation didn't feel comfortable for me. I didn't enjoy suiting up in protective clothing and spraying carcinogenic chemical on the grapes that I was going to intend to drink later, and so that's when I went back to books to learn and try to teach myself what other alternatives exist. And I learned about organic farming. And so the next year I successfully farmed a vineyard organically. And through further reading, I learned about biodynamics. And that really made sense to me. And I was also aware that some of the best wines in the world were grown biodynamically. And I could see just the benefit for all involved in a farm management style like that, and also the resulting wines. So there was one practitioner in the valley that was practicing and had a consultant, and so I knocked on his door and said, "I want to work for you and learn this." And that was that's how I got started. So having been immersed in the biodynamic farm management style and winemaking as an assistant vigneron for several years in Walla Walla, I was getting curious about other wine regions and working elsewhere, and also with the intent and hope to establish something for independently, and work for ourselves. So it was in Walla Walla that Chris Spade and I met, and she comes with a background of GIS and mapping and was working on some vineyard mapping projects up there with a mutual professor friend. And so we met and shared these interests, and also agreed that it was time to move on from Walla Walla a little bit. So we embraced the travel idea and went down to New Zealand and worked harvest down there, and spoke about the idea of creating something ourselves and where that might be. And we had both had an idea of the Columbia River Gorge before leaving, but serendipitously a friend had called me while in New Zealand and said, "Hey, there's a beautiful old vineyard that the owners are looking for a manager or someone to lease it." And I thought about you. And so I contacted them, and after our year in New Zealand, Chris and I came back and were able to successfully lease and kind of take ownership, or at least leasee ownership of the Atavus vineyard, which is one of the oldest in the Pacific Northwest, planted to Pinot Noir and Gewürztraminer. And that was our foundation for starting Analemma. And so we were both excited to live in a little bit cooler region besides Walla Walla and also be a pioneer in a young growing region. I felt that Walla Walla was quite saturated, even at that time in 2009. So we were attracted by the region, the year-round recreation, the scenic beauty, and the opportunity to make a name for ourselves.
I love it. That's perfect. And again, to kind of put you on the spot a little bit, I did ask you to rate your origin story out of 10, and you gave yourself a 9, or you gave your story a 9, more to the point.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you, Stephen? Break that down for us a little bit.
What it represents to me is just this authenticity that Chris and I shared, and the organic unfolding of how Analemma was created. It was always driven by a vision to create a beautiful farm that, grew high value enough crops from the land to support a strong team, and to really ultimately, create an expression of fine wine in where we were, or wherever we found ourselves. And so I give it a 9 because we've done that. We've done that. We've stayed true to our vision from the beginning. And it's been she and I really digging deep and finding answers to the challenges that arise normally, in the upstart of a young business. And even with those wines from the Atavus vineyard, they stood out immediately as being beautiful examples of the Pacific Northwest sparkling wines. And we've done it without compromising our values. So I think those are the aspects that I give it a 9, in execution of the original vision.
Okay, I love it. And then the second question that I asked you beforehand was, what makes your winery unique compared to any other? So again, what do you say to that?
Yeah. Well, some immediate points come to mind, and you mentioned you through this process of interviewing all the wineries, you come up with a storytelling that allows for the fingerprint of that winery. And the name that we created, Analemma, or the name that we chose, I guess, to apply to our winery, Analemma, we often refer to that as a fingerprint of place. And so just by that alone, we are unique. We're specifically Mosier, Oregon, and on this little parcel. And so we try to enhance that uniqueness by reinforcing the personality and individuality of our farm. And I'm speaking to the layout, the aesthetics, the diversity, and also the microbiome that we work hard to cultivate. That microbiome allows for the yeasts to thrive and be healthy, which ferment our juice into wine, which gives our taste a place. So we do that through a unique style of farming, biodynamically. We've been certified through the organization of Demeter, the global organization that certifies biodynamics, since 2017. And we also adopted a true vigneron model for production, meaning that's kind of the French approach to wine growing. And so myself is actually out there, the one doing the pruning, the tractor driving, the cultivation of the grapes in tandem with a strong team. But we have very focused practices that we employ to grow the highest quality grapes. And then it's myself and an assistant in the cellar taking equally good care and attention to the wines. And then with the community we've developed here with Chris and Mark and the rest of the team, we sell these bottles and greet the guests that arrive and explain the whole process. So we're involved in every step of the way of the whole thing from growing to sales. So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but to distill it down, the points of differentiation would be the way we farm through Demeter certification. Out of approximately 11,000 wineries in the U.S., only 40 are Demeter certified. We approach it as a true vigneron, old world style of production that focuses on the farming first. And lastly, but not conclusively, we have chosen to plant a wide diversity of varietals to expand the conversation around great wines and the world of wine and what's possible. So, to that last point, we grow Godello, Trousseau, Mencia, Albarino, Petit Manseng, and other wines that are hard to find in the world, let alone just one place. And that enthusiasm about the full spectrum of what is possible is a highlight of Analemma.
Very cool. Yeah, I love it. And as you know, I love the wines as well. So that's a double whammy, let's say. And kind of final question really before I give you my feedback and any kind of recommendations / suggestions. And it's just to kind of say, and I think this is important, is to keep the customer in mind, because again, they are I think are so important in what we both do. We need people to be a part of the story themselves and to help create a story. And in my experience, the story that attracts customers, that gets them curious, is different from the story that retains them. That these are related but different phases of the journey, let's say. So let's discuss your current customers. So the people who are coming through the door and are kind of picking up what you're putting down, let's say. What is it that you think that they want, first of all, and beyond the wine, why do they keep coming back?
Great. I believe our customers are quite curious in terms of exploring a new region like the Columbia Gorge. So we are a little bit lesser known than Walla Walla or the Willamette Valley. And so there has to be a certain level of curiosity about a new region, an undeveloped region. And then that also carries over into the exploration of the wine varietals and styles that we bottle. They are excited to try something new and learn. And we also, our property is set up as such, and our programming has been created to bring the guest and customer into the farm and into the experience. So we have field tastings in which we go out on the farm and do an extended tour, talk about our farming practices, and we taste the wines in the blocks in which they're grown. So that's just one of the points. The other point is we have an extensive garden and then harvest a lot of those foods, and Mark prepares beautiful culinary offerings from those, from our property and surrounding neighbor farmers, to provide a culinary experience with the tasting as well. So much everything we do is geared towards participatory experience. So as opposed to just a propositional way of knowing the wines, of reading, tasting, and hearing. participatory, gets them out in the field, asking questions, bringing them in, and showing them the cellar, and trying to inform them of the processes and being really transparent there. So I think that that's what brings them here, and what keeps them coming back is their enjoyment and the feeling that they have when they're here. So many folks say, wow, this is just my happy place. I don't know what it is, but the ambiance is here and the wines are delicious. Because we have such an array of wines, we have a tasting experience that is very unique. And the majority of the feedback we receive is that they like all the wines. They were surprised that they like everything from the sparkling to the sweet wines. And that's usually not an experience they have everywhere they go. And so they're just really intrigued, and that curiosity is piqued. Their expectation perhaps exceeded, and so they're ready to come back. Yeah.
As we sort of look ahead then, I mean, is it possible to say for the business, is there going to be a greater focus on the wines kind of that you're producing, going out there into the world, or bringing people to the winery? I know they're both important, but I'm just curious what comes up if I ask you to sort of, not exactly choose, but just give me a feel for the weight.
I think the paradox of it is we're hoping to bring more people in to experience it, and then therefore the wines will flow out to a greater degree of people, because once our guests are here and experience it, we have a very high conversion rate to membership, and then word of mouth, and we appreciate that our wines aren't grown, and our story isn't it's not as conducive to a distribution model out there nationally, and that's okay with us, because we want to focus on the direct to guest interaction, and also feel it's important to try to sell the wine within a strict bioregion of the Pacific Northwest, with a little bit trickling out from there. But we realize that most of the carbon emissions come from shipping long distance. Yeah, our value system really emphasizes sales that are more close to home, and that's going to depend upon a member or a guest that's been here that bought a bottle to share that at a dinner with friends in their neighborhood who would also come this way.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. Okay, and final question, I promise. What would make it easier, from your point of view, to attract and retain customers?
One of our limiting points is just our team. Like if we had a bigger team, to be able to host more people here at a single time, but also what it takes to the outreach really well. It's a lot. It's a big part of the business, and it's just through social media and email campaigns and coordination. And also when we have guests here, then we need more ambassadors in the cellar door to host everybody. And then they'll be taking tours or eating food. And so we need the kitchen operating at its full capacity, and myself or someone else that knows the farming to be able to host them for a tour. And I think we're doing a really great job with that. But if you're, and to address your specific question about just in scaling that, I think that's where we would need to focus.
Okay, I love it. Well, it's time for me to do some work then. So no, thank you so much for sharing all of that. It totally makes sense, and it absolutely matches with my experience. Again, I can only echo, and completely honest and transparent from me. I have an absolutely fabulous visit with you all there, with yourself, with Chris, with as many of the team as I met. I think that kind of tells its own story. Again, in terms of the origin and what makes you unique, I again, I love the story. I love what you're doing. I love the wines. It's all love from my side. But what I wrote down as I was listening to you there, Stephen,
Yeah.
I wrote, there's what you say,
Yeah.
and this is not just you. This is for anyone. This is for me and everyone else on the planet in any language. But there's what you say, and then there's what people hear, and then there's what they remember.
Okay. Yeah.
And I do just wonder if, and I guess that's really what I'm here for and what we're here for. There needs to be a kind of a culling, let's say, of the story and a real focusing of it. Simply because, I mean, I'll just give you an example. Simply because it is a rich story. You've taken, I filled a whole page of notes here, and through that story, you've taken me and taken us from Italy to Turkey to Walla Walla to New Zealand and back to Mosier, back to back to Oregon. And I believe you're originally from California. Do I have that?
North Carolina.
Carolina, sorry. Okay, so we could even have added an extra kind of point and a location in there. So, and again, that is your truth. I would just say that's going to be very difficult for anyone to hear the story, let's say. And then if it's difficult for them to hear the story, it's going to be more difficult for them to remember. And then it's going to be nearly impossible for them to pass it on.
Great.
And
that's good feedback. Yeah.
And the other thing that I wrote down, which is actually, so that was one of the first things I wrote down. One of the last things I wrote down, I actually think for you, the work on the story can be your bigger team. What do I mean by that? Again, it just plays into this fact of it. I think it will feel like you've got an extra person on the team when you've got that, again, that kind of focused down story, that kind of very much still soul and still all the things in there, but just with that much more focus. It will just take people less time to tell the story. It will take people less time to understand the story, and then they'll be more likely to repeat it when they're taking the wines out there. So I do believe you'll notice a bigger, let's say, impact, out there in the world. And again, this is just my feedback, having heard this a lot. It's almost like talking about your kids, isn't it? It's like everyone thinks and everyone believes and everyone is right. Their place in the world is completely unique and not like anyone else's. And I totally get that with you. And again, me being the Spain geek and wine geek that I am, I absolutely love the fact that we could have a Godeo, that we could try Mencia, that we could have these grape varieties over there, which was again absolutely lovely. But I would just say again, on a in a shootout, if we're kind of lining up 50 wineries in a row, everyone kind of says the same thing. So that's all I would say, is just that, again, it's what do people hear? It's like if people are hearing from 5 wineries in a row that we've got a unique place and we're trying to wine is made in the vineyard and we're trying to capture a sense of place and we've got a unique terroir. It's very likely that the people will, in all honesty, that they'll kind of tune out a little bit, but if they hear that again, and that's nothing to do with quality of the wine or the truth of the story or the beauty of the place or your own authenticity, that's just language. And that's just, again, how we're set up to kind of filter out things that we think we've seen before, even if that's not always entirely true.
That's really good feedback. And I can see, and sometimes I can feel myself as well, like, oh, this is a long intro, like I'm going back to my days in college. So I appreciate the reflection to tighten that up, and also the ubiquity of, oh, my farm, my terroir, my place, my wines. I get it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And but again, let's try to let's not just get stuck there. Let's move past that, and again, let's see where we can get towards this idea of this winery fingerprint. And my definition of that is that you basically got 3 points of a triangle, and one point of that, as you're telling your story, is going to be the sort of the factual story. So that's, I think, a little bit more there, where you're talking about, okay, I was here, I did this. It's that kind of, this is what happened. These are the sort of irrefutable truths, and we do this, and we are certified in this sense. These again, these are the kind of irrefutable facts. So that's on one point of the triangle. And then on another point of the triangle is something there around you as an individual, but also just the soul, let's say, of Analemma. And then I think, so that's like what you're talking about, the facts and the soul. And but then on the third side of the triangle, there's what people receive, and really their emotional response, and effectively why do I care? It's like make people care. And I think when you've got the messaging that does all of those three things, it captures the facts, it captures the soul, and it makes people care. That is the fingerprint. I've got loads on my page here, so I'll be honest. It's not jumping off the page to me. I keep coming back to transparency. I think that is absolutely, I think, critical for you, and I think that is what will resonate with the people who you want to come there. And again, I like economy of words, so I believe a lot of your wines themselves are actually quite transparent. That there is actually this kind of brightness, and I don't think we're in the territory of these deep and heavy wines, let's say. I think there is a sort of a lightness and a sort of a freshness to them that I think, for me, ties in with transparency. And maybe there, I mean, again, I sort of started writing down some ideas, in terms of the kind of, transparent farming, transparent production, transparent experiences, and kind of transparent people. Almost kind of seeing this as on a website, or seeing this potentially kind of rotating around. So I'm curious, does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. I appreciate what you've kind of pointed out with the triangle. The factual stories are easy, right? I mean, that's just putting those together. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I am very aware and study leadership quite a bit, and so I know the importance of leadership and creating a culture here at our business and on the farm, and we all participate in it. So I'm not the only one there, but as one of the business owners, it's really important to start with me, and I very much am biased towards the soul of the place, tangible essence of what we're creating here, the health, the vibrancy, the levity, the light, the friendliness, the welcome, the generosity. All of this is really front center for our team and how we interact with each other, and then with the guests. So the soul of Analemma is on display for the guests when they come. And I think what they receive, it is that beauty through that transparent, that authenticity, which I know that's kind of an overused buzzword, but this is what we're thinking. Authenticity is the transparency. We're not putting on a show, and we walk the field and the farming, and it's transparent about our production, about hide anything behind the curtain. Leave it in the cellar. This is what's happening in the cellar, go years. And so I think you hit on transparency as a beautiful, beautiful adjective that is a bit of a summary. If I might say, as an extension of that, I don't think that the guests would feel or resonate with that as much if it's about trying to assert Stephen, or Chris. It's just genuine appreciation for the beauty of life, and the beauty of living this life and what we're doing. And that's what they receive and feel that feels so good.
Yeah. And if I might just sort of circle around, I think that word alone, I think you can make a strong case for the factual that transparency is factual in terms of the certifications. I think you can make a case that transparency is in your ethos. Like when I was there, you encouraged me to. You said, go and have a walk in the vineyards, and go and have a look around. Go and explore. And that is like totally transparent. It's like, I'm not going to sort of guide you around and show you this and show you that. It's like, look, we've got nothing to hide here, guys. There's no nasties on the farm. So go and have a wander, sniff some lavender, and go and sit in the field and enjoy, sort of thing. And then I think it then completes the triangle, because for me, authenticity has been corrupted really as a marketing word, and I do believe that the louder that we shout about authenticity, the more people resist it. But I think transparency, I don't think it's something that as many people are willing to claim, because it feels as though there's got to be something, something of substance behind it. And I think for you, transparency is way better as a word than authenticity.
I believe our wines are transparent. The style in which we make them, and the clarity of them, and the purity and like just cleanliness. They're not muddled, they're not muddled.
Just the word transparent is a great word, but alone it's not enough. It doesn't actually say anything. It's just, it's like a naked word. It needs a partner. And again, the four areas that kind of come to mind for you guys is transparent people, transparent farming, transparent wine, and transparent experiences. Yeah, those, again, when we think about honing down your story, cutting off, at least again for the attraction part, by all means, tell the New Zealand, Turkey, Italy, tell the full story when they're in the door, when they're in the club, but to get them in the club and to get them comfortable taking that first step, it feels like those are your four kind of almost key pillars to kind of keep hitting on. It's like, okay, now we've got these pillars, we can kind of, okay, we're talking about people, we're talking about farming, we're talking about wine, we're talking about experiences, and it's like, okay, that's your signal that you're kind of putting out there in the world. That's your bat signal, to bring in new folks into your world.
I really like it. This has been it's been a nice conversation to kind of surface this commonality, and I really appreciate your perspective.
A huge thanks to today's guest, Stephen Thompson at Analemma Wines. Reflecting back on what we discovered together, the Analemma Wines Winery Fingerprint, transparent people, farming, wine, and experience. Let's put it through the Winery Fingerprint test. Number 1, it's factual, evidenced by their biodynamic certifications. 2, it captures their personality. I found everyone at the farm to be open and transparent with me when I visited, inviting me to explore any corner of the property and interact with anything I found. And number 3, it drives an emotional response. When someone is so unashamedly open with us, it's irresistible. We want to go and swim in the clear waters because we trust there's nothing hidden underneath, because we can see. We feel safe, and so we want to dive deeper and explore. For me, the bigger Analemma story is particularly nuanced and complex, which takes time and effort to fully process. The Winery Fingerprint works to attract the attention of more people than the bigger story can, essentially acting as an additional team member whose sole responsibility is customer outreach, communicating with their audience everything they need to become brand ambassadors. Scaling Analemma beyond the team and the incredible on-site experience, to the point where each bottle can embody and tell the story, no matter where it's being poured or by whom. Visit analemmawines.com, the link is below, where you can learn more and to find their main social media handles. And why not reach out to Stephen Thompson directly to let him know what you thought of the episode and ask any questions raised. The Winery Fingerprint is also the title of my upcoming book, releasing in Q1 2026, which solves the customer attraction challenge for wine producers and regions, allowing producers to discover and tell the stories that the market is crying out for. I offer the Winery Fingerprint program to producers and regions, a process of discovery, documentation, and refinement to discover their producer's winery fingerprint. If you work at a winery, a producer group, or region, register for book updates and be among the first to hear about live events at interpretingwine.com/WF2026. And join me on the journey towards more visible wineries. Next time on the Interpreting Wine Winery Fingerprint series in episode 595, I'll be speaking with Joe Wiens of Wien Cellars in Temecula, California. Subscribe to be alerted when the episode goes live. See you then.